Who is the protagonist? You see, Poppy Playtime has many mysteries, and one of the greatest is who we actually play as in the games. We barely have any background information, but with information from Chapter 3 and the newly released Employee Handbook, we might just have the key to solving everything. So hey everybody, I'm Jeeps, and today we learn the real identity behind Poppy Playtime's protagonist. Now starting off, we'll be looking through the newly released Employee Handbook, and fun fact, this thing is a whopping 144 pages long, filled with subtle lore secrets, experimentation logs, information within the company, employees, and information on the author themselves, which is exactly what we're looking for. And if you read each page bit by bit, you'll come to find that a story begins to develop. Now on the first page, we find a note from a biologist who was hired to work at the toy factory, which he specifically noted because why would a biologist be working there? More importantly, this biologist has been working here for a while and says that there is a lot of stuff that they do that isn't in the handbook, which is followed by the signature PW. Now in my time of looking into Poppy Playtime's lore, I haven't been able to find any specific name that relates to PW, but from what I've learned, I don't believe it's anyone of high power within Playtime Co. because of how recent they were hired. But there is a possibility, and I do believe that they will hold a much higher importance in the storyline of these games, and I'll explain why later in the video. Anyways, continuing, colored notes exactly like these are seen throughout the entire handbook, alongside some documents that aren't meant for the public eye, but would get to see as he had access. Documents covering experiments like Huggy Wuggy, Mommy Longlegs, Catnap, and even the prototype. And it would make sense for him to have access to these as he was a biologist, most likely working within the labs, studying various toys. And thinking in the perspective of our protagonist that we play as in the games, we are told by the experiments we meet along the way that we used to work here, meaning that we are an ex-employee. And knowing that PW has knowledge of the experiment's existence and the inner workings of the company, alongside being an active employee at the time, it's not entirely impossible to say that PW might just be our protagonist that we've been looking for. Alongside this, the monsters we come across specifically say they remember us, but why of all people would they remember us? Well, maybe it's because we were the ones experimenting on them, but I believe this goes way deeper than any of us would ever have thought. You see, there are many pieces of evidence and perspective that support what I'm saying, but I believe one of the biggest takes place at the very end of the book, the calendar. Now yes, I know it seems strange, but there's actually a lot in here. Dates talking about the orphans held in playcare, meetings with lawyers discussing lawsuits, data entries with Dr. Sawyer, the list goes on. And that's not all. This is given to us as the employee calendar, but not all employees would have access to this information. And we know this is our calendar because on June 28th, we see it's your birthday. And your meaning us. So with that, our character PW has been speaking with Dr. Sawyer, who created the Bigger Bodies Initiative, knows about the information in relation to the experiments and the orphans, and seems to be in some type of large position managing things around, because why else would he have all of this information stacked on his calendar? But aside from that, there's one more thing. Where have we heard it's your birthday before? Doesn't that line sound familiar? Well, back in chapter 2, during the first minigame, you would go against Bunzo Bunny in a game of musical memory. Right before entering the room, you'd find a Bunzo Bunny cardboard cutout, and clicking it would give you dialogue saying, "I know when your birthday is," followed by June 28th, the exact dates of our character's birthday in the employee calendar. And while it could have been a reference to Markiplier, we didn't have this information at the time, but now we do, and it actually makes sense. So that would directly connect Poppy Playtime's protagonist to this PW person, and it could explain why the toys are so familiar with us. But yet again, this brings up more questions, like, if we experimented on the toys, why aren't they angry at us, trying to kill us? Specifically toys like Poppy and Kissy Missy. And who is PW? Still, what do those initials mean? Well, for the first question, we could see that PW was collecting hazardous information, possibly against Playtime Co., that they hadn't released to the public in the employee handbook. Something similar Rowan Stoll did, the first victim of Boxy Boo, after attempting to sabotage Playtime Co. And this makes sense because of all of the notes written throughout the handbook. It's like we were trying to dig deeper, learn what they're saying in order to reveal the truth. This would present us as someone going against the company, which would put the experiments in our favor. But it made me think. In chapter 3, when we first see Kissy Missy, she instantly attacks us, and the moment she's about to kill us, she gets stopped by Poppy. Now, what made her attack? It could have been that she was just tense because of the play care, or it could have been that we assisted in experimentation on her and she attacked us out of fear, but was ultimately stopped as we were there to help. I never really thought of that scene this way until now, but it is a very interesting perspective. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. And as for the initials, I would compare them to the missing name sign for chapter 2, but I'm unsure if this PW person is related to or is another head of a branch within Playtime Co. So in the end, we actually formed more questions from the ones that we answered, and now we have to figure out who PW actually is. Let me know your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. Anyways, this was my theory on who the protagonist is in Poppy Playtime, and I'll be looking into it more in the future. Most of the information wavering this theory came from the Playtime Co. Employee Handbook, and I had a blast making this video. Anyways, let me know what I should post in future uploads. Thank you for watching, I'm Jeeps, and I'll see you in the next video.